Welcome to Nazarene, Israel. My name is Norman Willis, and in this new video series, we're going to talk about matters of discipleship, the kingdom, and you. And what this is we have our disciples have asked us a number of questions about things that have occurred to them now that they're in their walk of attempting to truly be disciples and be conformed to Yeshua's walk, of attempting to do everything that the Torah says to do. And one of the questions that came up was, is the three tithe system still for today? We know that there's 3 tithes commanded in the Torah, but do those still apply to us now? To find out why the answer is yes, stay with us for this study. It's really wonderful to watch people grow in their spiritual development. So when we are newborn babies, of course, someone else feeds us, someone else cleans us, someone else changes us. If the room is too cold, they make sure we're warm. And if the room is too hot, they try and cool us off, this kind of a thing. And as we get older, now we begin to take care of our own responsibilities. We learn to feed ourselves, we learn to clean ourselves, we learn to pick up after ourselves in our rooms. Eventually, as we start to get to a certain age, now we should be able to start to help out with other things around the house. So it's the same kind of a thing. When we get to adulthood, now it's our job to take care of others who are not able to take care of ourselves. We take care of the elderly. We take care of children. And the same kind of growth takes place in the spiritual realm. So first, as newborn infants in the Word, somebody else is feeding us, and somebody else is cleaning us, and someone else is taking care of us. But as we learn and grow spiritually, now we need to come to the place where we are learning to take care of others. But when you begin to take care of others, now the commandments take on a whole new importance, and they seem to take on a whole new form. So you end up with discipleship questions about how do certain commandments apply to me? Am I really required to give a third tithe to take care of the poor? But that's a very adult kind of a question to be asking, is what are my responsibilities? What am I supposed to do? How do I please my Elohim? So one of the things that we do in Nazarene Israel is that all disciples read all of the doctrinal studies at least twice. And if you have questions, please ask, because the purpose is that we can all be on the same page. So we want, first and foremost, to know what His Word says, so we can be on the same page with Him, so we can walk together with Him. And then we need to be on the same page as each other. So at least in doctrinal terms, the way we do it is by agreeing this is what we believe Elohim's Word says. And if not, let's talk about it until we do know what Elohim's Word says. But the problem is there's certain aspects of our walk that have to do with our duties and responsibilities. And you can get people excited real easy when they hear about the benefits of the kingdom, when they hear about the promises to the disciples, when they hear about all the good things. And you can get people to rest on the Sabbath and read on the Sabbath. That's not too difficult because they're effectively resting and reading. So they're getting rested and they're getting refreshed and they're getting fed and these kind of things. And that's very easy to get believers to do. And that's where you get your 4,000 and your 5,000 and your myriads and your multitudes and your crowds and your throngs. But, and then there's other people that go quiet. They go dark when you start to talk about the tithe. And then there's other people who are just plain going to kick up a fuss. And so some people would rather go get major oral surgery than listen to what Yahweh says about funding His Son's kingdom work. And if that describes you, then really, brother or sister, you might want to pray about it. And I think one of the things we're going to talk about in this first part, we're going to talk about the reasons for Yeshua's kingdom. We're going to talk about the things that we know we need to do and the reasons why we need to do them. What are we really trying to do here? But first, let's talk about the complaints. So a lot of times people, they have complaints. And it's very interesting sitting back and receiving the complaints and the hate mail and the nasty grams over the years. It's very interesting. You can kind of break down And you'll probably see this also in your walk as disciples, but you can begin to break down the complaints into various categories. So sometimes we hear complaints from the church end of things, from the Catholics or from the church system. And of course, their basic argument is that all of the Torah is done away with, except for the tithe, of course. And then you get the flip side to that in the Messianic or the Ephraimite movement. And the argument there is that no. None of the Torah is done away with, except for the tithe. And, the problem with that is pretty obvious, is that either we're going to pray and submit to Yahweh and ask him to lead us and guide us in everything by his Spirit, in which case we adopt his whole Torah, or we don't. And it doesn't matter whether we reject it by rejecting this 1% or by rejecting the 99%. We're still rejecting his Torah. It's still the error of the Pharisees. The Pharisees believe that they can start with his original and then modify it and make their own rules. They can delete this one and add that one and this kind of a thing, because they add their own fence laws and these kinds of things. And I believe that a lot of the Messianics and Ephraimites make the same kinds of errors, because they're effectively attempting to do things their way instead of truly submitting to Yahweh and say, "Dear Master and King, please treat me as your servant. What would you like me to do?" That's the kind of way we need to approach the tithe, as well as every other topic and every other subject. Another pattern that you see is the 99%. Most of the people in the Hebrew roots movement are still on what you might call the Messianic model, and a lot of them, indeed, they're on the prosperity doctrine model. And so when you look at it, basically they treat the tithe as if it belongs to them. And then they'll say all kinds of things, and they might actually believe that they're truly serving Yeshua, but they're not helping to build a unified global ministry kingdom for Yeshua. They've forgotten all about that. And so they don't teach on congregational discipline. They don't teach upon proper structure and order. They don't teach upon the apostolic foundation. And so they don't teach these kinds of things, and so it makes for a broader, easier road. And so really what they're trying to do is they're just trying to get the people excited to get them to give. And you can tell that because you take a look and they take the money home. So that's a corruption. And we understand that there's a lot of people that are opposed to giving. No one wants to give to corruption. That doesn't make any sense. But what we would do is we would contrast that with what we do here in Nazarene, Israel. And in Nazarene, Israel, all of the tithes, the donations, the gifts, the offerings, all of that, we carefully administer them because we know that at the end of our lives, we're going to go stand before Yahweh's throne. And we're going to answer for everything that we did and everything that we failed to do. And when you think about the responsibility of that and how awesome that day is going to be, that's really a lot. So, and that's the thing. Do we have our mind set on earthly things? Are we still carnal? Are we still focusing on the money? Or is the money just something that Yahweh is giving us to help us, give us the time that we can do his ministry work, that we can further and build his kingdom? What is our relationship with money? Is it something that Yahweh provides for us so we can do more? Or is it something that we desire, something that we lust after? These are important questions for any disciple. And if you see people who are absolutely refusing to tithe, the same questions apply to them. But again, we do understand a lot of people's reluctance, and you'll meet a lot of people like this, and for many it's an excuse, and for many it's legitimate experience. I believe that most of us have been burned at some point or another in the church system, or perhaps in the Orthodox system. But the thing is that people are people, and we can't let that impact us over much, because as it says in Philippians or Philippines chapter 3 and verse 18, the Apostle Shaul is telling us that there were many ministers, even in the first century, that basically the way they walk is they make themselves enemies of Yeshua's sacrifice. And they're going to go to destruction because the thing is they've set their mind on earthly things. They're not keeping their mind on the requirement to build Yeshua a unified global kingdom. They're not doing that. They're doing things for themselves. They're trying to they're trying to see what they can get for themselves. And so, we understand that people want to be cautious, but we also need to know what it is that we're called to do, and then we need to do it if we're going to be disciples. So as disciples, you will have already read the Torah government study twice, at least twice. And then so what we see, we don't have time to do a full study on that. We know that at some point we will have to do a full study on the tithe, but we're hoping to work that into some other things in the future. But one of the things that we see, and if anyone wants to check it out, there is in the Torah government study, it talks about the 3 tithe system that was given under the Levitical order, and we also talk about how it still applies today in the Melchizedekian order. And so we have the first tithe, basically that goes to the priesthood. That's basically what funds Yeshua's kingdom work. So that's how Yeshua's kingdom grows, is because we're not doing this to make money, clearly, but it still takes money. They don't give us rent for free, and we don't get the cameras and the programs for free just because we're doing Yeshua's work. Basically, Yahweh's kingdom work is crowdsourced or crowdfunded, and we are the crowd. So it's definitely pay to play. So if we want to help build Yeshua's kingdom, which is a global effort that takes absolutely everyone, then of course we need to do our part. Most people, they don't have too big of a problem with that. Then of course we see also a second tithe. Most people, they may not see a problem with that. They at least understand the concept, but now the disciple is attempting to take that role on and say, okay, if this is what I'm supposed to do, then let's do it. Then you have the second tithe, which we could basically think about the people's tithe or the family tithe. And the purpose of the second tithe is to take your family up to the feasts 3 times a year and to make the feasts a delight for you and your family. So when you raise up children in the way they should go, then when they're older, they shall not depart from it. So this is to make the feasts a delight, so our children and our families are looking forward to Yahweh's feasts 3 times a year. And then we're going to explain in next week's section, we're going to explain about the third tithe, and that is for the poor, the widow, and the orphan. Basically, it's Yahweh's pension program, or it's Yahweh's social security, you might call it. And so this is a very important third tithe, and we're going to see that it still applies in the renewed covenant under the Melchizedekian order. The application is a little bit different, but mostly it stays the same. So we're going to talk about all those things in next week's portion. This week we just want to talk about the purpose. Why is it still important? Why are we still supposed to be giving 3 tithes? So a lot of people don't know, and I believe that this is a lot of the reluctance that people have to tithe, is they simply don't know what are the 3 tithes for. We see all these prosperity gospel preachers talking about crystal cathedrals, and we see all kinds of, if I don't raise so many millions of dollars, such and so. There's no submission. Where is the submission to Elohim's spirit? Okay, well, we can't do anything about the rest of the world, but what we can do is we can submit personally to Yahweh. And we can say, okay, Father, we want to be your servants. What do you want us to do? Well, he doesn't always answer directly, but one of the things that we know in general is that Yahweh is seeking a Proverbs 31 bride for his son. And he's got the pick of everyone out there. We need to give him reasons to choose us as his son's bride. So he is seeking a Proverbs 31 bride for his son who wants to help him build his kingdom. She's using her mina as best as she can. This is what she wants to do. She loves her husband. She wants to see her husband succeed. She's eager to do all she can to help build her husband's kingdom. And this is the kind of thing that it's like when you hear the complaints from people, you just can't help but think they don't understand what we're trying to do. They don't understand that we're attempting to build a global ministry for Yeshua that eventually will be the ruling and reigning spiritual government of the world after the Babylonian system falls at trumpet 7. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But you hear the complaints and you get, and people, you understand they've been abused by the pastors, they've been abused by the rabbis, they've been lied to, but there's still a job to do. There's still a global kingdom to build for Yeshua, and it literally takes each and every one of us. They used to have the concept of Christendom expanding for the whole globe. And that's still the scriptural mission. And that's still something that we're called to do, even if the rest of the body of belief is off. We're still called to do the right thing. So what are we called to do? Well, we get the Great Commission in Matthew chapter 28. Starting in verse 18, Yeshua says, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. All. Okay, that's a lot. Now we know that Satan is the prince of this world, but there's a transition taking place. And Yeshua's government is going to be put in charge all of a sudden after the tribulation. And the tribulation is drawing near. And there's a day when we're going to need to be ready. Okay, so what does Yeshua say to do? What are our marching orders for the last 2,000 years? He says, I have the authority. I want you to make disciples in all the nations, immersing them in my name. And if you want to know why we immerse in Yeshua's name only, we have a study on that in Nazarene Scripture Studies, Volume 3. But I want you to make disciples, immersing them in my name in all nations, all. And I want you to teach them to keep or to guard or to observe or to do. In Hebrew, the word would be shomer. I want you to teach them to shomer, to guard, to do everything I have commanded you. And what has he commanded us to do? What does he want? We know what he wants. We know what he wants us to do. He wants us to build him a global kingdom in his absence. That's the meaning of the parable of the minas. So that's what we're attempting to do. But it's a kingdom of disciples. It's a kingdom of those who don't just call themselves disciples and then don't do what he says. Again, that's why it's so wonderful to get questions about the third tithe, is because it's a question, am I really required to look out for the poor among us? Am I my brother's keeper in that sense? And it's wonderful to see that awakening taking place. So, what are the other things we're commanded to do? We're commanded to build a unified ministry for Yeshua worldwide that eventually will become the spiritual global government. This is what it says in Ephesim or Ephesians chapter 2. And it tells us that we are now no longer strangers and foreigners to the commonwealth of Israel, but now we're fellow citizens with the saints and the commonwealth of Israel, here called the members of the household of Elohim. It's a family thing, because it's built on a single foundation of apostles and prophets, and Yeshua Messiah himself being the chief cornerstone. And it says, in whom the whole building, being fitted together, grows into a single, unified, set-apart temple in Yahweh. And it's just so amazing. You talk with other people, and they don't know what Yeshua was trying to do. They have no concept of building a unified global kingdom that eventually will serve as the spiritual government of the world for 1,000 years. They don't understand this. But it's right there in Scripture. So in Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 7, it tells us that of the increase of Yeshua's government and the peace of his government, there will be no end. Well, do we believe that? Do we understand that that's our job to make that happen? Because we are his body, we are his hands and his feet. We are doing what the Spirit of Yeshua is doing. If we are truly his disciples, if we are truly led by his Spirit, we are already manifesting the fruit of Yeshua's Spirit. So it says the zeal of Yahweh of hosts is going to be the one to perform this. So again, this isn't something that we need to do. All we need to do is we need to hear what Yeshua's Spirit is telling us and do that. Because it's Yeshua's Spirit that's already building his kingdom worldwide. We just have to submit and do everything that his word says to do if we are to be his disciples, and no fooling. So people say, well, are you sure we're going to be a global spiritual government? Do you know? Are you sure? We talk about that in Torah government. We also talk about it in Revelation and the end times. And we see how the Babylonian government is going to fall at the end of tribulation. Between tribulation and then the cups in Armageddon, the Babylonian system will fall and be no more, just like the prophecy in Daniel. And it continues. So it says in Daniel 7, starting in verse 26, and it says, but the heavenly court shall be seated, and they shall take away the little horns or the Pope's dominion, to consume and destroy it forever. And this is where discipleship comes in. It says, then the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. If that's not the disciples, I don't know who that is. So, brothers and sisters, are we ready for this? Now, are we ready to be given the kingdom and dominion? And we don't set dates in the Revelation study, but what we do is we study the timeline and we study the progress and the sequence of events. And brothers and sisters, we are coming right up on the tribulation. And at the end of the tribulation, there will be trumpet 7, and that is when Babylon will fall. And there will need to be a new system of government established at the fall of Babylon, and it will be us, and we are not ready, and it's coming right up. So that's the reason why for the discipleship training. So let's read that again. Then the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. We're interpreting that as the Nazarene Israel disciples. And there's kind of a riddle because it goes on. It says, his kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. So on the one hand, it's saying the kingdom and dominion is given to the disciples, the Nazarene Israel disciples, and at the same time, his kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions shall serve and obey him. And our understanding, the reason why that is because we are his body. And he is going to give authority, power, and dominion to us as his body. As he continues to serve as our head, we will then be his hands and his feet. Or we are effectively one flesh with our husband at that point. And we will be his bride, one flesh, doing his will here on earth. People say, are you sure? Yes, we're sure. We've been over this many, many times. Do you want more witnesses? Here's Tehillim, or Psalms, chapter 2 and verse 7. This is Yeshua talking. Yeshua says, I will declare the decree. Yahweh has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. He says, and you shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. So what we see here is very clearly Yahweh is handing his son Yeshua a rod of iron with which he can now dash the nations to pieces as he rules and reigns over them during the millennium. But do we understand that that's our job as his hands and his feet? Because Yeshua is still talking, continues talking in Hitgalut, or Revelation chapter 2, starting in verse 26. It says, and he who overcomes, now that's Israel, that's just another name for Israel, the overcomers of Elohim. So you get problems, you pray, you listen, what you're supposed to do, you overcome the problem in Elohim. So, and he who overcomes, Israel, and keeps my works until the end. So we need to be working for him, not just learning, we need to be working for him. He says, to him I will give power over the nations. Says, he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and they shall be dashed to pieces like the potter's vessels, as I also have received from my Father. So again, we see the same scenario here. We see Yeshua receiving a rod of iron in Psalms 2, and then handing it to his body or his bride in Revelation or Hitgalut 2, because his bride is the one that's going to have the job of ruling and reigning over the nations, just like it also says in Daniel 7. Now, in the Revelation study, we also talk about the prophecy in Daniel where the stone that's cut out of the mountain without hands strikes the image on the feet, and the whole Babylonian image falls to pieces and is blown away like chaff. It's blown away like dust. And in that day, a different system will be required in order to replace the Babylonian system. Sound fantastic? We are the ones who are called to establish that system, and he's giving us lead time. He's getting us started now. He wants to see which ones of us are going to respond. Well, also in Torah government, we explain how Elohim wants us to build that global spiritual government for his son, and how he wants us to fund it, which is through the 3 tithes plus gifts plus offering. So now that we have an understanding that Yahweh has been attempting to establish a global kingdom for his son for a very long time now we can begin to understand what's actually being said in Acts chapter 15 in the so-called Jerusalem Council. And what we see is that what's really being discussed is global governance so that the Gentiles can be brought back into the commonwealth of Israel. So verse 15, the apostle Yaakov, or James, is speaking, and at this point he's the leader of the Nazarene assembly after Yeshua's death. And he says, and with this the words of the prophets agree, just as it is written. I want to say Amos 9 and verse 11. He says, after this I will return and rebuild the tabernacle of David, which has fallen down. That's a governmental structure. He says, I will rebuild its ruins, and I will set it up, so that the rest of mankind may seek Yahweh, even all the Gentiles who are called by my name, says Yahweh, who does all these things. So he's effectively speaking here, how is he going to bring the Ephraimites back into the fold? That's why they're discussing this in Acts chapter 15, because the faith in Yeshua is actually a spiritual government. And for 1,000 years, it will be the global spiritual government. But it's our job in between now and then to set it up. And we need to get busy. So that's the why of the third tithe. And we're going to see in the next section, or we might break it out into a whole series. We'll see what Yahweh says. But in the next section, we're going to briefly describe the first and second tithes. And then we're going to talk about the third tithe and why is it still important and how does it manifest in the Levitical order and how do we see it still manifesting in the Melchizedekian order. And that, we hope, will be pleasing, if not to most of the believers, at least it will be pleasing to the disciples who truly want to know what Yahweh's word says so that they can do it. Because that's what a disciple is. So please join us for part 2, where we talk about how we can all please Yahweh by helping to fund his son's global spiritual kingdom, especially for the needs of the poor, the widow, and the orphan. Shalom.